Now, the people at Easy Mix have sent me some extra time and some half time, because I said I've never used it and never been particularly keen. So they've sent me some free samples. Now today, to finish off this job I'm on, I've got a 2-bag mix to get the majority of the walls on in this place, and then the last smaller area, which rather than hang about, I am going to try the half time and we'll see how we get on. So this first lot I'm going to do, no add mixes in it. The second lot I'm going to use the half time and going to look at the timings of how long it takes the gear to go off compared to what I'm used to. Just as a side note, I've knocked up a 2-bag mix. Normally use 2 1/4 buckets of water. This one I've done now, and it's still quite thick, I've put in over 2 1/2 buckets of water. So there is definitely a variation in how much dust basically you're going to have in a bag before you mix it. So you can never mix absolutely accurate amounts of water to plaster. Just thought I'd pop that in. As with the ceiling mix, again this is a 2-bag mix. You'd be pleased to know it goes through very quickly. Didn't think you'd want to watch me go through this whole set in ordinary time. It's a 2-bag mix to put this side wall on, and the opposite one there is no additive or no accelerator, no retarder. For me, when I'm doing, because I work on my own, basically a 2-bag mix, which I can handle, is the biggest mix that I will knock up at one time. I'm used to the timings of that. I mean, again, in this mix, it'll be a case of there's enough left over for me to water down what's left of my first coat to put on my second coat, which I think I'm doing now in this bit. And then give it the old ruling off. Now, if I put a retarder in this, to be quite honest, there wouldn't be any point because I would just be hanging around waiting for it to go to pick up. So, when it comes to putting in retarders for someone working on their own, like myself here, for me there's not a lot of point in a retarder, because as I said, it would just leave me hanging, basically waiting for the stuff to go. Now, an accelerator, that's something different, because oftentimes I've had just a small job to finish off, and you've got you think, oh, it's going to stick another couple of hours onto the job if I do this set now, and then I might put it off till the next day. So an accelerator, from that sense, fantastic. And also they do an accelerator that you can put into bonding, and that'll probably be something I use the most, because when I do have the odd little patch of bonding to do, the amount of time you need to hang around to be able to put a skim over it can be quite silly. So that's pretty good stuff. The other thing, as a novice, I would assume that from a novice perspective, that an ad mix that retards your plaster might be a great idea, and can probably help you hit a wall that's possibly a little bit too big than you'd be able to manage normally. The only issue I would have with something like that is the fact that if you get used to using it, will you ever be able to do a big wall without putting a retarder in?
Quite a bit still left over. You see that's gone off now, as well as you'd expect. While the each coat was picking up, I stuck the the reveals on, because when I do that last set on the front of this, I don't want to be having to mess about with reveals at the same time or after. They're only small ones, so they weren't a big deal to get on. Now, plasterboard beads are traditionally stuck on with bonding or finish or nails or screws. They can also be stuck on with super fast setting mitre glue and spray. They can be stuck on with carpet adhesive. They can be stuck on with decorator's cork, as long as you get them level. It doesn't really matter how they're stuck on. I've used all these techniques. The technique I used today, which I did mention at the beginning of the video, was the mitre glue, because each bead then is literally stuck in about 5 to 10 seconds, which is a time saver. You guys are probably starting to get the idea that I like saving time, because I'm earning money. I do this for a living. I enjoy it, but I don't do it for fun. Anything that saves some time is great. There's no admixes in this. I didn't want it to go off any slower, that's for sure. But in this last section, across this bit of wall and across the front, seeing as the reveals are already done as well, I'm going to put in some half time, which should reduce the setting time by at least half an hour, possibly longer, maybe an hour. But we're about to find out how well it works, and if
Yes, at this point I added 2 packets of half time to the right amount of water for one 25 kilo bag of finish, which was great. I also popped in the bag of finish, which was great. My whisk, which had been giving me the odd bit of trouble, decided it was going to stop working at that point. Disaster. So guys, what to do? I've got all that water, I've got my accelerator mixed in, I've put that, as I say, that bag of finish in, and then the whisk wouldn't turn. And then I smelt some burning, which was coming from the plug, so the only thing I could do was rip cut the plug off as quickly as I could. I don't advise you do this generally, but I stuck the 2 wires from my whisk straight into the wall, pushed another plug on top of them just to get them in there, to get some power to the whisk as quickly as I could. Then I managed to knock up the gear. Now, because I'd left it sitting there while I was trying to fix the whisk, the reaction between the accelerator and the finish put hundreds of tiny little lumps into the gear. It was they were soluble lumps. You could kind of squash them out, and I've worked with lumpy plaster before rather than waste a whole bucket and more time, and so that's what I'm doing here. The stuff felt a little bit plasticky as well underneath the trowel, but again, I think that was because of the delay in putting the 2 things together and then getting the mix sorted out. But anyway, I endeavoured and carried on as I was putting this on, especially the first coat. You could probably see earlier from some of the grooves and lines in it that yeah, I wasn't enjoying it at all. But once the second coat had gone on and I'd managed to rule it off a few times with the speed skin, it was starting to do the trick. So by the time I got to putting this on with the old water spray and troweling it up, we were there. Big difference is, if this had gone properly, it would normally takes me 2.5 hours to do a set. This last set on these 2 walls came in at 1 hour and 15 minutes from mixing it to this, what you're looking at now. Rock solid, so it definitely saved time, and I'd use it again in the future, but not without a decent mix.